Hola, mi gente. Thank you so much for joining us today for our last PC Power Hour of the semester. We have a packed agenda for you today, so I'm going to jump right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about building coalition and hopefully providing you all with a framework to building your own local networks. We had some interest on this in some of our last PC Power Hours, where some of our staff at the campus level were asking for some direction on this. So we put this together in response to your feedback. And with that, we'll jump into the agenda. So we're going to start off with building coalitions. We are joined today by some of our great partners at President's Alliance and also University of Illinois Chicago and Northern Illinois University, who are both going to be talking about how to really get some tools and resources and structures for your local networks using their models and using some of the resources that they've already put together at the national level, and hopefully you'll be able to scale that down to your region and really start to use some of these tactics to build your networks. From that, we will be shifting on to our second biggest piece of this session, which will be our upcoming annual scholarship renewal. Our scholarship management team, led by Yahaira this round, will be talking about the process, letting you know all of the information you need to know in advising scholars on completing their scholarship renewal process. Hint, hint, if they don't do their scholarship renewal, they become eligible for the scholarship. So super, super important that they complete that. So we're glad to have Jahida walk you through those steps. And then we'll be closing out with some announcements of some things that are going to be coming up. So with that, I want to pass the mic to our colleague, Ivana.
Hi, thank you so much, Chris and TheDream.Us for inviting me to share a little bit more about building local coalitions. I'm really excited to be here with y'all this beautiful Thursday. So I'm the project manager for our campus engagement team at the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. It's great to see some familiar faces in the space. I am privileged to lead the Undocumented Community of Practice and Action. And so I'm excited to share a little bit more about how you can tap into this existing network to build your own local network and coalitions within your own regions. And so I just want to thank TheDream.Us and Immigrants Rising for being our partners in these efforts. Next slide. For folks who are unfamiliar with the Undocumented Community of Practice and Action, or Undocucopa, as we have given the acronym to, this is a strategic space where we bring together higher ed practitioners, professionals who are supporting undocumented students at different institutions, that is community college, bachelor's granting institutions, and graduate and professional granting institutions, to come together to share effective practices and take action. And so the goal of these meetings are to facilitate connections and develop collaborative solutions. And it's really meant to be a peer-led space where we distribute evaluations to understand what's happening on campuses, make sure that we are bringing in speakers who are knowledgeable or experts in their area to help our peers develop solutions that they can implement on their campus. And so the goal is to really combine the learning and practice and make sure that they can implement stuff either in their program or at their institution. And so the undocumented community of practice comprises of three different efforts. The first one being the practitioner directory, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few slides. This is a hub where you can find practitioners who work with undocumented students based off their state and area of expertise. And I can share that link in the chat in a little bit. We also host quarterly-ish meetings. I say quarterly-ish because it really depends on the calendar. We are in flux, and so as a community of practice, we're constantly evolving and learning from our own community and making sure that we host opportunities that work for our practitioners. But the meetings are meant to be dynamic, where we invite guest speakers who offer insights on their area of expertise, provide promising practices, and on occasion, we will bring in our experts at the President's Alliance to provide policy updates. based off what we're hearing both at the federal and state level. And with these dynamic meetings, we do try to set aside time for some small group discussions, which want to emphasize are meant to foster peer connection and really try to get that direct support, where hopefully folks can do some problem solving. And then finally, we also do have a listserv, and I will share that link if you're in the chat if you're interested in joining. But that's more of a online space for practitioners to ask questions and share resources when we're not meeting in person or if they're not connecting one-on-one. Next slide. So I know folks here already know why coalitions really matter, but I figured I'd emphasize this point a little bit further and also tie why these coalitions matter and with our higher ed, our map of tuition and financial aid policy on the higher ed immigration portal. Pardon, my brain is going really fast. And so coalitions are super important, especially as we're thinking about tuition and financial aid policies at the state level and making sure that you're connecting with folks in your region because you're able to leverage local expertise, respond and react to regional policies and how they impact your own institution, right? That's super important because a state policy will impact a private and a public institution differently, right? And so that's something for us to continue thinking about. And it allows for faster collaboration when there are moments of urgency or as policies changing, which you can do in local coalitions at a much faster rate than if we're responding nationally. And so it allows you to be a little bit more agile to challenges that are arising and really thinking about the needs of your students and institutional shifts. And so it's super important because now you start building these relationships with folks who you see as trusted partners to call on when it matters the most. Could we go to the next slide and I'll tie why the higher ed immigration portal map matters. So just pulling some numbers, we currently have 217 higher ed professionals and nonprofit staff in our directory, and the number continues to grow by the week, which is super exciting. And as you're thinking about building your own local networks, I wanted to break that 217 number down into a regional overview for folks to see how many practitioners you have in your area. And I'll provide another example on how to connect with folks in my last few slides. But we're super excited to say that in the Midwest, we have 38 practitioners. And super exciting that we're seeing a lot of growth in the South Central area, where last year we had about 6 folks in the higher ed directory. We now have grown the South Central area to 11. And so you can see that if you're in the South Atlantic region, there are 33 professionals for you to connect with. And don't worry, you don't have to do that outreach yourself. At the President's Alliance, we're more than happy to help you make those connections. And this is just for you to see how you can reach out to folks and move from idea sharing to action, learn who's facing similar issues, make sure you're connecting, learning what's working for them, and then find opportunities to collaborate with each other because something we know in higher ed is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And so making sure that those relationships, you have those relationships is super important. Could we go to the next slide? I wanted to share an example from some of our wonderful colleagues at the Cross Campus Organizing Network. This is a coalition that did not start at the President's Alliance or through the Undocumented Community of Practice. Rather, the Cross Campus Organizing Network does have members from the Undocucopa, and we are working to absorb them to make sure that we are providing the administrative support they need to keep those meetings ongoing. And so CCON for short, their objective was to bring together higher ed faculty and staff who support undocumented students in the DMV area by increasing access to educational opportunities, again, building community and connecting with like-minded folks, and then providing an understanding of the political context and ways to get engaged and make meaningful change. And so this has been a very successful group. And something they wanted me to emphasize was that the group, while it has been successful, it ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes folks get super busy. And so people have to take a step back from CCON. And sometimes there's opportunities for folks to really lean in and take charge of this group. And so some challenges, and this is something important for us to all consider, is what is the capacity of everyone's role? How do the regional differences impact the way that the work is moving? And then in addition to regional differences, considering the different institution types that are in your local coalition is super important to making sure that you are supporting each other the best. And these are similar challenges that we also face at the Undocumented as we are doing work nationally, right? And so providing state-specific information can be a little bit challenging. We do our best, but it's not always perfect. And so that's why it's always in flux. And we rely on our community to inform us to make sure that we can best support our folks on the ground. And so thank you. Making the most of your coalition. So while there are some challenges, it's going to ebb and flow. As you're thinking about building your local coalition, now that you've seen the breakthrough of the regional overview of folks in the directory, I suggest that you create regular touch points. Consider the academic calendar. I know that there's going to be times where it gets super busy, like May, where students are graduating. Our staff in colleges and universities are super packed. Getting graduations through, but there's also times where the calendar slows down a little bit, like the summertime. So making sure you create regular touch points is super important. Um, Not only that, but make sure that you can bring and or tap into folks in your area who have models that are working. How can you highlight them and share them with folks that are in the meeting, but also out of the meeting? Making sure that the coalition is a space for collective problem solving is super important. Do you create or identify different themes or topics for folks to problem solve? Do you hold space for people to just share what their challenges are and then problem solve in current time rather than bringing in speakers? It's super helpful to also think about the overlapping goals for partnerships if you want to create partnerships through the coalition. And then last but not least, who are your leaders and how can you garner support from your leadership to also showcase what's working? Because sometimes leaders need to see what another institution is doing to make sure or to know that they can implement that on their campuses. And so it's super important as you think about a coalition, making sure people have roles. Facilitators are really great to make sure that the meeting keeps going, making sure that we have note takers to keep a record of the meetings. Make sure that you're building trust. So icebreakers are really wonderful to making sure that you get to know each other outside of the work. But it's also super important to be consistent and keep showing up regularly so people know you and they know that you're someone you can turn to. Um, and as always, make sure you share resources, tools, ask questions. There is no such thing as a silly question. And also, sometimes we don't have the answers to everything that we're looking for, and that's okay. But that's where the coalition is the most important, where you can support one another. And last but not least, reach out to your networks offline. Build those one-on-one connections. That's how trust becomes stronger between each other. And then in my last slide, I know I shared a lot of information, but I really want to emphasize that the Undocucopa is really here for you. As I said earlier, you don't have to do that direct outreach by yourself. If you want to connect with folks in your region, feel free to send me an email anytime, and I'm more than happy to bring folks together. As best as possible, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom similar to this wonderful power hour and bring folks together to do some brainstorming. I invite you, if you're not already in the directory, to join the directory and make sure your profile is updated. This way it's easier for practitioners to find you and for you to connect with your peers as you are working in higher ed. make sure you tap into the efforts at the Undocumented and deepen your commitment over time, making sure you're showing up. And as we talk about deepening your commitment over time, I did want to share that we do have our 2025 success national convening that is happening this September 10th, 11th, and 12th at the University of Illinois, Chicago. I'll send the registration in the link, but that's a wonderful place. If you're looking for folks in your region to connect with, you should join us in person and start those conversations there. And then again, truly emphasizing, let us know what you need. My email, my door is always open, even though it's a virtual door, but I'm always here for you. Our work really is guided by what you're experiencing and what you're sharing. And so if you need connections, happy to build connections. If you have topics you want to talk about and dive in deeper, let me know and I'll find the experts so we can continue doing that brainstorming together. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to Chris and Tanya and Sandy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, both to Chris and Ivania, President Science and the TheDream.Us, for having this timely discussion, and look forward to convening with you all in September. The early bird deadline for the success convening is June 30th, so just before this fiscal year ends, we want to make sure that you're able to join us. And thank you so much for being here today. Next slide. And so within the institutions, right, we recognize that building statewide higher education, connecting with individuals, being intentional with professional development and sharing our best practices, not gatekeeping, but sharing these resources amongst fellow colleagues and within the K through 20 pipeline. We have to learn and support state policies that are in place and looking at current policies that are outdated, right? And making sure that we review these policies and procedures as they sometimes hinder matriculation success of our students, not only to degree completion, but also for job placement opportunities. And it really is a collective collaboration with our institutional partners and community-based organizations to get this work done. We do not do this work alone, and I'm really thankful that my colleague and subject matter expert, Dr. Sandy Lopez, is here with us today, and she's definitely going to share some more details about implementing a critical undocumented serving institution for our students. And the Illinois Dream Fund was actually enacted in 2011 to provide support and access and resources for undocumented students through private gift funding for scholarships to continue their education. But the big component was the training, making sure our colleagues and our allies understood the best practices, what is happening at our institution, so that students who are transitioning from high school to a community college or a four-year vocational program were aware of the resources and not in making sure that they're aware that these doors are now open and they're no longer closed to them. Next slide. One more. And it was really the President's Alliance that put out a call to action. And this hit home with a lot of us with regards to learning and understanding the state and institutional policies that affect immigrant students and re-examining them and taking it to the state level to make sure that we can review these policies and put some things into law at the state level. We know it's been difficult at the federal level, but putting it together at the state level was where we could have the most impact. And I think with the President's Alliance Equity Committee, us gathering and sharing those resources of bills that are happening in California and across other states, sharing those blueprints so that we can implement something that looks similar to what's happening in other states and have a national impact, right? The goal to have that at a level where we can do this work, but as a collective effort, impacting these legislations so that at a national level, we're making these changes for our students possible. Next slide. And so what we really needed was data. When we're working with legislators and try to find information out, like, well, we need data. What is it that's stopping this process? And students, thankful to Roberto Gonzalez, Dr. Maria Luna Duarte, and Dr. Daisy Strong, and others really coming together and for the state of Illinois in particularly to create this Illinois National Undocumented Research Project and stating that we need money. That is the main thing hindering individuals. A lot of us were already doing this work, but the financial barrier was the huge gap that we needed. So for years, this is something that we've been advocating for. And it wasn't until we had a Democratic governor that we were able to implement a lot of these bills. Next slide. And so like I mentioned, the Illinois Dream Act passed in 2011, but that Acevedo bill, which granted in-state tuition, was back in 2003. And everybody's like, well, why did it take so long to, make these bills possible at the state level? We had a Republican governor at the time. And so with our new leadership under Governor Pritzker, we were able to pass the RISE Act, which allows access to undocumented students and mixed status families and trans students who no longer identified as male to still have access to state aid. So that happened in 2019, along with professional licensure. We had more and more cohorts of undocumented students entering our institutions, if we've seen at the national level, that no longer had access to deferred action for childhood arrivals. And so giving access in the state of Illinois to individual undocumented immigrants who had possessed an I-10 or were able to receive an I-10 to allow them to sit for state licensure in the state of Illinois. And we're actually working with other states through the Equity Committee at the President's Alliance to push for employers to now hire these professional licensure individuals, as we know the need is high. And after, like I mentioned earlier, we had so many colleagues, Dr. Lopez and I and many others, who were doing this work but didn't have the title. And actually, in the state of Illinois, Dr. Lopez is the only individual that has the actual title of working and serving undocumented students. And I can't wait to hear what she has to share with you. The other bill, the healthcare registry bill, another to give access to professional licensures to sit for state exams. And it only excludes EMT, but that was a huge win for us when we were able to pass this bill. The two other bills that I listed below in red, the lottery special causes, we needed funding. And it was really difficult to raise private gift funding over the years. And so advocating for funding with the United Negro College Fund and now with the Illinois Dream Fund, we were able to award about over $1 million specifically for our undocumented students in the state, whether attending 2-year or 4-year vocational program. And if they're studying outside of Illinois, we could still allocate that money as long as it's an immigrant-friendly institution. The other bill that just recently passed that will give access, House Bill 5658, the in-state tuition bill, will now give access to recent arrivals to access state aid beginning January 1st, 2026. And I do want to mention, we just had a bill passed yesterday, the Safe Schools Bill for All, House Bill 3247 passed. And so now we are able to keep our immigrant families safe from those trying to enter our schools and protect those students and families. Next slide. And so I had mentioned that we don't do this work alone, and it really is a collective effort. I'm really thankful to have my sisters from Other Misters, Melanie Butron, myself, Dr. Juarez from the Latino Policy Forum, and Dr. Sandy Lopez. And what we're doing as a collective effort is with the Latino Policy Forum, Dr. Juarez convenes our liaisons and makes sure we're updated on national and both state legislation. With the Illinois Board of Higher Education, we list all the undocumented student liaisons throughout the state. So students and families and not-for-profits are able to locate individuals who work at those institutions to connect their students and families to resources. And Dr. Lopez serves as our subject matter expert, along with Melanie Butron, to really share best practices and what they're implementing at their institution to support us by best practices, professional development, and trainings, and really that outreach and support where we could just call each other and say, hey, I heard this is happening, and really connecting, like Ivania said, to each other and opening those lines of communication. It's not a competition. It really is a collective effort to support our students. And we're not all trying to get them to come to our schools, but making sure that they find their fit, not only academically, but financially for long-term success on their pathway to degree completion. And so now I'd like to pass it on to my colleague, Dr. Sandy Lopez from NIU. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tanya. As Tanya was getting ready to present, she said, I really would love for you to share a little bit about the framework that as we were talking about supporting the liaisons and helping our liaisons who were starting or people who had already done this work but didn't have the title, I started thinking about the need for a framework, something that we could use to guide us in the work that we were doing. And I had gone to Dr. Gina Garcia's presentation, and I remember seeing her slides, and I thought, I think we could apply this to undocumented students, but one framework wasn't enough. I realized we had to braid together a few, like a trenza, right? because one isn't enough to capture the nuances that affect our undocumented and our mixed status students. So I had been working on UndocuCrit as part of my dissertation. It was one of the braids or the trenzas that I had used for my dissertation. And if you're not familiar with UndocuCrit, it talks about 4 principles of fear, liminality, parental sacrificios or sacrifices, and this notion of acompañamiento or being a mentor to our students, because we know that our students cannot come to and through our institutions unless they have some type of community, a sense of belonging and mentorship. And so I really liked those pieces. And Aguilar talks about that fear. You know, we have this saying, thanks to the Immigrant Youth and Justice League, where they started saying undocumented, unafraid, and unapologetic. But we know that our students are very afraid. That fear is there for them, their families, and community. So how do we help them not get stuck there, but to move through it and support them? So looking at that, you know, that framework, and then working with Dr. Baja Ellis about her, you know, undocumented stress cycle. And so her stress cycle, which now has been changed to cycles of deportability, because the stress is not because of the student, but because of the system. And so braiding those 3 together to create this critical undocumented servingness framework, as I'll explain in the next slide, how I use that to guide the work that I do and to inform others. And so go ahead and hit the next slide, Chris, if you can. So this critical undocumented servingness framework, this is just a model of what I have here. But it's critical because it's asking us to be critical of what we are or are not doing at our institutions to support our undocumented students and our mixed status students. It's also critical in that it's super important now more than ever that we do this work. And so you'll see, unlike Dr. Garcia's framework, where it has a quadrants, I had these nested circles because I feel like depending on your institution, depending on your state, your, you know, at the national level, what are the policies that are in place, you can move through these circles or these spaces. And so that outer piece being undocumented forming. And so how are we informing our students about what they are given access to or not given access to? And so, you know, this could be anything from having meetings with high school counselors, with students and their parents themselves. There is no class that our undocumented students are taking to tell them, oh, this is your status and this is what you are not afforded in your state at your institution. And we realize that a lot of students don't find out about their status and what they can and cannot have access to until they're on college campuses and they meet with some of us for the first time, or they attend a student group. Are we having campus events? Are we having undocu orientations? Are we having our admissions people have literature or something that welcomes them to lets them know about what we have, or you know what is what they have access to on our campus? That undocu enrolling, that whole piece is our, you know, do we have admissions people identified who are dedicated to help our students? Are there people who, you know, have we trained our faculty and staff who may be the first people that they contact? How are we sharing information about funding opportunities? Again, our open house, our orientations, you know, are we being intentional with where we are and the services that we're sharing? This cannot be something that just one center, one person does. It has to be institution wide, right? We have to institutionalize this work into the model of TheDream.Us, where we have liaisons in all these different departments. It's very much what this model is about. That enhancing piece, you know, how are we, once our students are there, you know, how are we helping our students deal with the fears that they may be facing? That notion of liminality, ni de aquí ni de allá, not really feeling connected, right, to either country, the one they're in now or the one that they've come from. And so how are we having, you know, mental health workshops? Are we having joyful workshops? Are we having things where students feel like they are part of our classrooms? Are, you know, are our teachers bringing in scholars? Are we having events where we have undocu Black, undocu Asian, undocu queer folks, so we can meet our students at their intersecting identities, right? Because they are much more than just their status. And so how are we enhancing those individual supports and those academic supports too? You know, are we creating also, you know your rights opportunities? Are we bringing in immigration attorneys? And so when we look at that undocu serving piece, right? And this is the piece that I always say, we still are working on this. We still have a ways to go, because our students who do not have DACA, there is no magic. Like, this is your pathway to go work if you do not have DACA or for gainful employment. So we're currently working with our Career Services Office and the College of Business to make sure that we are truly serving our undocumented students on our campus. When we look at academic outcomes, let's talk about this part, the academic piece. What's the time to degree completion? What kind of research or internship or community service opportunities do our students have? Paid opportunities do they have? What are the retention factors? What helps them with choosing a major or persisting in those areas? Our transfer rates and our graduation rates, we have to look at all of that. As far as serving our students in a non-academic setting, do we have a center? Do we have a space where students can come? Do we have an organization where students can go and feel and be part of a community? And then again, having those liaisons, those dedicated staff in admissions, academic advice, and career services, mental health counseling. How are we doing all of these pieces to truly serve our undocumented and mixed status students? And again, as I started looking through this, I realized one framework wasn't going to be enough. And that's why I ended up using this trenza methodology of braiding it together so we could hit all the different pieces that are really going to support our students. And this is not something that we here at my institution say, everyone has to do this. We're not saying that. What we're saying is we've seen the value in meeting the needs of our students. And here, learn from us, but also share what you're doing so we can maybe improve what we're doing, right? As Tanya said, I am currently the only full-time director in the state of Illinois that has the title of a director of an undocumented student resource center. And I'm proud to say we also have an assistant director, and there is no other assistant director in the state of Illinois. And so we are proud of the work that we do with and for our students, but more importantly, making sure we're connecting with our administration, our legislative liaisons, so we're always informed about what's happening. Pass it to you, Tanya. Let's see. And then I guess, Tanya, do you want to share? Those are at the very end. Those are some slides. There's some resources in Illinois from the Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, the National Immigrant and Justice Center. We also have Organized Communities Against Deportations. And then a new page that we're really proud of that just got launched, which is the Illinois Immigrant Info page. That is a coalition of different immigrant rights organizations that have created this one page that has a ton of information that's useful to our students, our communities, and our campuses.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lopez. We just want to make sure that we have time for questions afterwards and pass it on to the next speaker. But this is based in Illinois. Like I said, we want to share all these resources and support so that other states can implement similar and have this effect to impact positively our students and their families as they're transitioning through our institution. Thanks, Dr. Lopez.
Thank you both so much for your presentation. I do want to, again, sort of save some time at the end for Q&A. So we're going to jump right into the scholarship management team talking about the renewal process for this year. So I'll pass it off to Jaira.
Hi everyone, I'm Yahaira Gonzalez. I'm the Scholarships Program Manager at TheDream.Us. And today I want to highlight our annual scholarship renewal process. Our main goal really is to ensure that we have all of the relevant information and updates from our scholars to ensure that we can renew their scholarship for the next year and apply their funding. So I'll go over the process and some deadlines for you today. Next slide, please, Chris. Thank you. We're going to start our renewal period this year from June 2nd to June 23rd. So that's coming up on Monday. And the students will have about 3 weeks for them to do the renewal form, and it will open for them at midnight on Monday, June 2nd via their ISTS Scholar portal. It's really essential that the students use this specific link because this is the link that takes them to their specific Dream.Us Scholar portal. The form closes at midnight Pacific time on Monday, June 23rd, and it is a hard deadline this year. All those eligible to renew must submit the form and upload everything, including the copy of their most recent transcript by their deadline, in order for them to be reviewed for funding for the year after that. So you are now able to track your scholars renewals and where the status is of their renewal forms. This year we have over 3,800 scholars who are eligible to renew. So it is a lot, and we do a lot of outreach on our end, but we really do hope that you also do your outreach as well and tap those students to confirm that they have done their renewal form. You can log into your ISTS PC portal and run your PC Scholar report. When you download this report, you can then filter on column AE and select the 2025-2026 eligible to renew. This will then populate a list of all of those students, and you can go to column AG to find each of their scholar renewal status. So you'll see either not started, so the student has not started or opened the form. They started it, so they have the form open on their end, and they're probably already looked at it and they're working on it. Submitted and complete. So this is really important, the difference between submitted and complete. When they have submitted it, it means that they have turned everything that they can to the form, and they are waiting for the transcript or the document that is needed from them to be processed by the ISTS team. They probably have about a few days, I believe, for the ISTS team to review that transcript and document and make sure that it's acceptable. And then once it is approved, that renewal form for them goes from submitted to complete. Once it's complete, the scholar is ready to go. We encourage you guys to reach out to those scholars whose status is not complete during this time. If a scholar status is listed as submitted for more than a week, there's most likely an issue with their transcript. It was probably not uploaded correctly, the file was wrong, or it was just rejected in general from the ISTS team. So we really want to make sure that we're talking with those students and double checking that they are on top of looking at the status of their document. Next slide, please. So all eligible scholars must complete the renewal. This is one of the agreements that they have when they join our community. We need them to fill it out even if they do not wish to renew the award. So the first question they will be asked is if they want to renew it, and they can select either I wish to renew the award or I do not wish to renew the award. If they do not wish to renew their scholarship, we ask a couple of follow-up questions to find out why. So they can either select they're not attending a partner college, they're not attending college in general, they have graduated or will graduate before the fall, they have received their permanent residency or other. This is really important for them to fill out because this helps our data be up to date with where our scholars are in their immigration, but also academic journey. Next slide. So the renewal form structure, it looks pretty similar to how it was last year. If they are renewing their scholarship, they just provide us a couple of answers in the following sections. The first thing they'll see is just the general scholar information where they can confirm their email address associated with their account. And they also can provide an alternate email address and a phone number. Then they go into the immigration section. So this is where they just let us know if they still have or have a different status, their DACA, TPS, or are undocumented, or have another form of immigration status. And all of this information is confidential and it is private, so it's not something that goes to somewhere else. It stays within this form and in our organization. Then they go into the college and the university section, and this is where they tell us which partner college they are at, their cumulative GPA, their cumulative credits, the degree that they're seeking, the classes that they're in, graduation term, living arrangements, a bunch of information. So this is really important for them. And then they finally get to the supporting documents section. So this is where they upload their most recent transcript, and it can either be unofficial or official. So most of them probably have a readily accessible copy of their unofficial, and that's okay for them to upload. Next slide. So this is what they will see on their end, and it's really helpful for you guys also to know what they're seeing because a lot of them have some confusion when they come to this transcript upload page. So they first have to go into this page and upload their college or university transcript, and they have to click that green little button that says upload from device, and this is where they need to upload their file, and they have like certain formats that they want, and it has to be a certain size, under a certain size, excuse me. Then they have to, once they finish uploading it, their file name will appear in that section, and if it's successfully uploaded, it will turn gray, and then it will tell them what date and what time it was uploaded for them. So after they have successfully uploaded it, this gray button will show with a check mark. If it does not look like that, they probably didn't upload the right document. It was not in the right format, or it was too big of a document, so they have to do it again. Sometimes they have issues with this section, so it's really important that they reach out to the ISTS program support team, and they can help them guide kind of like the technical issues that they're having. But this does not mean that they are done. This means that they just uploaded it. It's important that the student keeps refreshing this page, looking at it periodically throughout the week to make sure that their document goes from submitted or uploaded to processed and approved. That means that their renewal form is now complete and they are good to go. If it does not say that, it means that they're still just in that submitted stage and they have not passed on to that next stage. So very important to keep an eye out on this for the students if they're having trouble, and they themselves can make sure that they are just clicking refresh, double checking that their status goes from submitted to complete. Next slide. So we do have some good tips here for you guys as you do your outreach to our scholars. It's important to just let them know that the renewal form will be going live and they can access it on their ISTS Scholar portal starting on Monday. Again, super important that they understand this is the most important thing that they have to do throughout the year. They have to submit this renewal or they will lose their scholarship. So this is the time where it's do or die. I tell my students, fill it out. It's the one thing we ask for you to do. If a scholar is unable to submit their transcript, sometimes that can be an issue. Sometimes they have a hold or they just can't find the portal, or they have problems in general with their computer. We ask them to reach out to you as scholar advisors or the team at your college for help, and you can help them by downloading it for them, and then you can just send it to them. And it's just important that they know without uploading a transcript to their renewal, it is considered incomplete and they will lose the scholarship. Again, there's no exceptions. This time around, we're really trying to make sure that they fill it out before the June 23rd. During that third week of around June 16th, we encourage you guys to take a look at that scholar report one more time and review it for those who have yet to complete their form. And it still states as submitted or either started. Hopefully you don't see that many by then and they've already been completed in the ideal world. But some of them are just not started yet. So we do encourage you to reach out to them and start calling them and letting them know that they're in danger of losing their scholarship. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can either email me directly or the rest of the scholarship team at askus@TheDream.Us. Please let us know if you have any questions. I'll pass it over back to Chris.
Thank you so much for that, Jahaira. Before I go into the announcements, I was just reminded we also are updating our policy on the 2.0 being under a 2.0 GPA requirement. In the past, we have allowed scholars to go an additional year on a sort of probationary status and be able to continue to do their scholarship. Unfortunately, we have to be much more firm on this. So if the scholar is below a 2.0, during the renewal period, they will become ineligible for the scholarship program and lose the scholarship. So again, just a really important note for you all to have that as you go through this renewal process with your scholars. Again, want to go through these announcements really quickly now, so give a little bit of time for Q&A. So we talked last month about the welcoming new scholars through our last application round and talk through about the process of making sure you're onboarding students appropriately. But there is sort of a second phase to that where we are looking at transfer students, right? So there are students who are graduating now with an associate's degree who may want to now come to your campus to complete their bachelor's. There may be students who are still in a bachelor's or just want to transfer after the end of this year to your campus. So you will see that shift during late June, early July of those current scholars who will be transferring from another partner college to your campus. So we advise you all to be looking at your PC Scholar report during that time frame so that you don't miss students, right? I remember I used to miss them sometimes at Hunter because I would always forget, like, oh my God, transfer students, and then I would find them, and then like we would get everything going. But just giving you heads up, it's always great for you to look at that because sometimes they don't know who to contact at the new school. And so it's always great when you can make that initial outreach to them and make sure that they are on board and that they know everything that they need to know on your campus to be able to go through the scholarship program. You may have seen this in the PC Weekly the last couple of weeks. We are onboarding new scholars, and so there is a series of 5 emails that will go out starting May 20th and will continue to July 15th. Each email will contain a different requirement, a different resource that a student needs to either get access to or complete as part of their onboarding process for the TheDream.Us. They are all listed here so that you can see them and have an overview. I did want to make a special note for the May 20th email that went out to scholars. We are doing a new process where we are doing immigration screenings for our incoming students, right? We want to be able to assess all of our incoming students and their possibilities for a change of status. This is something that they may not have access to on their own. So we are doing sort of all of the effort right now to really connect them with our immigration attorney who is well trusted and has already done a lot of these screenings for our alumni scholars, and now is going to be really focusing on our incoming students for this year. So if you have questions from students asking about this, it is a mandatory process that they at least complete the intake form. That will allow us to know whether they can continue through the screening process with us. All of the emails will be on our New Scholar Central homepage. So that link is here on the deck. And so you could follow along. Each email will be posted to that webpage as it goes out. In addition to that, as part of our onboarding process, Jahida, Elena, and our scholarships team are going to be conducting our summer office hours, which are 30-minute virtual events on June 11th, 18th, and 25th, where they will be giving some general guidance on the scholarship program for new scholars, whether that is what the scholarship covers, how their stipend works, or how to keep their scholarship. Giving some guidelines on that, but also allowing some space for new scholars to ask their questions about their scholarship program and get those answers in real time from our team. So please make note of these dates. Please, make sure that your new scholars are aware of it. We're going to be emailing them. It's all included in the onboarding emails, but it always helps when our scholar advisors and our teams can also sort of double down on that and just make sure that students are not slipping through the cracks and have access to these sessions. And then finally, one of my favorite times of the year, New Scholar Welcome is coming up August 7th. We are working out the details. We hope that you will organize a session at your campus where new scholars can view the national welcome reception. We have already started to purchase our new scholar swag. We got some bags, we got pens, we got wallets, we got a whole bunch of stuff, right? So we're gonna be mailing this out to our partner colleges for distribution to new scholars. So we do need your help in making sure that we have the accurate mailing address for you. I am using the sort of a template of what we did for the graduation stalls, but we still need you to go in and just update that because we don't always know when those changes are happening at the campus level. So just so that we can make sure that we're still sending it to the right person, we need you to click the link here before June 27th and make sure that you are either updating the information or if the information is already accurate. On column A, you can just click and just say like confirmed, and that way we know that you've looked at it and that that's the right address. And I will pass it off to my colleague Nicole to talk about the Summer Career Series.
Thanks, Chris. So we're excited to host our annual Summer Career Series, which will be happening again in July. This year, we're changing it up a little bit different. In years past, we've stretched it over 2 or 3 weeks. This year, we're compacting it into 2 half days. And we would love to have your help in promoting this, not only to your scholars, alumni, but also any undocumented students at your institution. So do know that our Summer Career Series is open to every and all undocumented students at our PC campuses only. During the 2-day event, we're going to be bringing in a lot of great undocumented professionals, speakers. A lot of them are the TheDream.Us scholars and alumni. The first session, we'll be talking about paid internships and fellowships. We'll be bringing in current scholars and alumni who will be sharing their experiences about these inclusive opportunities, and then putting them in breakout rooms so that scholars can learn more and ask specific questions. Again, we just have a great lineup of guest speakers, and we would love to have you promote out this great event to your students. And then keep an eye out for future promotion of this and future PC weeklies. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And with that, I want to open up the floor to all of our partner colleges attending the session. Please let us know if you have any questions from any of our speakers today. We want to open the floor. This is a free open space. This is a welcoming space for any and all of your questions. I want to thank again Ivana, Tanya, and Sandy for sharing just an abundance of information right now. And please feel free to raise your hand in the group, and we could unmute you so that you can ask your questions. I know folks have questions. Don't be shy. We've known each other for years at this point.
Hi, Chris. I do have a question. This is Dylan from Farmingdale. When you mentioned the GPA for renewing scholarship, you're talking cumulative GPA or are you talking like a semesterly GPA?
Cumulative.
Okay, so if in a situation, a most recent spring semester wasn't fantastic, a student is not in danger of losing that if they're still above the overall 2.0.
Correct.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Chris, this is Leticia from Illinois Tech. So will there be any appeals or they will lose their scholarship just immediately?
So I don't believe there's an appeal process. I will pass it off to Elena or Yahaira to confirm that, but it's my understanding that there will be no appeal process from that point.
Okay.
So there actually is an appeal process. So the scholar has to bring up their GPA on their own. So once they lose the scholarship, it's up to them to find ways to fund their education to increase their GPA. Once they are able to do that and they're at a 2.0 or higher, they can complete the request form located in their ISTS Scholar portal to ask for reinstatement. If for some reason we reinstate them, they've earned that, they've upped their GPA. If they were to ever go below a GPA again, at that point, there is no appeal process. They would lose it for good at that point.
And are these new well, I'm assuming this applies to all, right?
It
All
does,
scholars.
yes.
Have they been notified?
Yes. I mean, we've talked about it last year for all the brand new incoming scholars. We've always had a limit in there. We've just allowed a year for them to bring it up in order to be good stewards of the money that donors have provided, also from counsel from other partner colleges, where in most cases they're beyond academic probation at that point. They've been dismissed. We made the hard decision to say no more having a year to sort of bring it up. They have to do it on their own at that point. But, you know, it's in the scholarship program guides. We go over it all the time. And we've also, you know, for a year now, from when we made the decision last year, we started letting our partner colleges know that as well, so that they could, you know, start letting scholars know as they have those conversations and start to see them falling below the GPA threshold.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Elena.
Go ahead, Jeff.
A follow-up question for folks around the academics and what have you. If there are any other scholar advisors out there that may have best practices when it comes to academic success plans or ASPs for short, is there a way that we can either share them out, or is there like a hub where we can upload those? Because I know in my office has developed a few for our area from our Dream.Us scholars, but then we're expanding that to like supporting our first-gen students and other undocumented students. But I'm interested to see if there are any other models that work for other folks, whether they're very hands-on by an entire office or in a division, or more particular for a scholar advisor. So just I'm posing that question for folks out there, if they're just a best practice for ASPs or academic success plans.
Please. The students, they are aware that it's 2.0, because I have a couple of students email me, they are higher than 2.0, and they were worried about the eligibility to apply. My question is, they receiving the email if it's clear 2.0 or below? I mean, so 2.0 is okay. I think they're getting a little confused because I keep on telling them, yes, you can apply, you can renew. Can you double check the language? Because I'm worried that they're lower than with 2.0, they don't apply.
Yeah, no, it's listed on the scholarship guide that it is below a 2.0 really clearly, and so that's been reiterated to scholars. So
Yeah.
I would always ask them to reference their scholarship guide, whether they're a national or opportunity, because the information is clearly pasted there.
No, it makes sense. With lower than 2.0, you lose your TAP as well. It's like, it makes sense. We use
Okay. To give you some tips
a bit more
about
strict
the
and
best
I appreciate it.
practices that we share, I can tell you, I do reach out to them one-on-one. I have developed my own individualized learning plan that I go over with them. I list all the resources that we have available, as well as other resources that they may reach out to, even to TheDream.Us. I also make them sign it to make it feel that they are really abiding by it. And they are like basically just the question that they do in the essay when they apply. What make you, but I do, one of the questions that I put in there is like, what make you drop below the required cumulative GPA? What is the reason? What are you going to do? Any action plan? So, and I sit one-on-one to create an action plan, to create a study guide, so they can follow like a schedule if they're working. Because sometimes they may be working 2 jobs, they may be going through some things with families that we may not know of. So there is a lot behind when they drop. And that's one of the things that I do to practice. I sometimes just say, I commit myself to send you a text every 2 weeks. Hey, we're here. You know, if you're gonna come and meet with me. Or I do it to everybody. I just send them a daily motivator. So I have a list that I send daily motivator first thing in the morning, just so they get something extra as well. Those are one of the practices that I do, a few of the things that I do to help them keep motivate them. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
I do the same. I have an academic plan. They sign it and they need to see me and I make them sign it for tutoring and with the department as well. Because they need to do tutoring in their own majors. And we have 4 times they need to see me and they've been working because I have maybe the whole group, maybe 2 students that really make a difference when we have the outreach.
So, Yessi, I see you have a question.
I was just gonna chime in. Something that has been helpful to us has been working with the tutoring center, but then also because the student needs to do a scholar check-in, sometimes I may schedule them twice in a semester to do a scholar check-in of like, we have to meet more than once to keep accountability. But then also connecting with other liaisons across our campus to like, I might not be the only person checking in on them, so maybe they're closer to someone else, and then just giving them a heads up of like, hey, the student is working with me, can you also support in this other way? Which has been really helpful for us, so that it's not just the scholar advisor, but also someone else across the university. And then my actual question is, and this might be more specific, so let me know, but I do know that a lot of our students at Dominican get a bounce back on their transcripts when it comes to renewals. Is there someone who we can talk to about that? Or just because I do know that official transcripts are a little bit pricier, and that's the one thing that like we are able to get them out of the portal, but sometimes we get a whole bunch of bounce backs, and so we have to submit more than once.
So I did have that conversation, Jesse, with ISTS this year, to make them aware again of reminding the team that processes them that we do have a number of schools where the school name is not listed on the unofficial and to still accept those. So we should not run into any issues this year, but if you hear of one, please let me know.
Thank you.
Hi, Martha. We'll take your last question or comment.
Thank you. Well, this is Marta Molina from Trinity Washington University. So by now, after the spring semester has ended, at least on our school, we will know who will be eligible for next year because we already have the grades, right? And I know there is an appeal process where the student needs to understand, I mean, what I understand, needs to bring their grade up on their own, with their own funding, and then they can try to reapply again or send as Elena say. So should we have a conversation with the student or should we just let him apply? I don't want to discourage the students from applying, but it's kind of weird because I don't want to give them false hopes because we already know they're not going to get it. You know, if somebody has a 1.9, I already know they're not going to get it because you're going to see less than 2. So what would be your suggestion? Should we just let them apply anyway? Because in case they decide to pay out of pocket, which many students don't have. So what would you like us to do? We don't want to discourage them, but again, especially maybe even opportunity scholars, they may not have the money to pay for this. And I know they should have known better, but they're kids and they do have some family situations that are very extenuating. I mean, with family working and they're kind of in the middle, just ready for their parents that need to work and things like that. So it's not an easy thing you brought 2.0. I do understand why you guys are doing it, you know, just to make this, but also there's a lot of things to consider. But I'm just saying, would you like us to have a conversation or should we just ask them to apply and then get a formal denial and then we can talk about it? Or what is your suggestion? Or what would schools like to do on these situations?
So I only heard part of that, Martha. I'm sorry. I was also responding to questions that were being asked in the chat. But I think what I was hearing you say was, should you just have the conversations with them if they are below the 2.0 and not have them renew? They still need to renew even to receive this, because we still need to be able to review everything on our end to know whether they are officially being renewed or not. So even if they're below the 2.0, they still should go through the process. Allowing them to go through the process, even if they're getting a denial, is going to be more helpful for them to have completed the process if they are able to bring that GPA up on their own after the fact. Just having seen that they went through the process, that's going to be more helpful for us, because it at least still shows that, you know, hey, they're still trying, they're going through the appropriate process of doing that. You know, when we made the decision last year, that's why we kind of started putting it out there early to the partner colleges, you know, at the fall, of saying, hey, this is a change that is happening come renewal next year, so that as scholar advisors and different folks who are working with them started to see them slipping, they could have those conversations early with them. I know it doesn't always, you know, as you mentioned, you know, things will come up. You know, family situations, personal situations, mental health, all of that do affect, you know, how they do in school and things like that. You know, so we know that there are going to be some instances where, you know, we are going to lose some scholars this year because of falling below, but just, you know, it's helpful for them, you know, through the academic year to, you know, have that support from somebody at the school saying, you know, hey, we see you're starting to slip, you know, what can we do to, you know, get you into, you know, tutoring or, you know, sessions with your teachers, you know, just different things like that, so that they see that there is somebody there trying to help them and they're not on their own with it. So I hope that helped.
Because that way they'll know that they will lose the scholarship, definitely.
Yeah.
Now that you may. No, I do understand that part, because I think sometimes some students, I know they're young and I know they don't get the whole thing for some reason. And even though they were great students, I don't know what happens until when they go to university. And many of them straighten up when they're graduating, but there's sometimes a few that it is. But no, but I understand. So we'll encourage everybody to apply, and we'll let everything be as it is, and then we can talk to them. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So much. So that is our last. I want to be mindful of time. It is 3:07. So we're already past the hour. Just want to give everybody a heads up again. We will not be doing PC Power Hour for the next 2 months. We're going to be taking a break for June and July. We will be back in August 2025 to doing a full rundown of the programming for the fall semester. So we look forward to seeing you then. While PC Power Hour is not going to be here, we are. It has been a really difficult semester and beginning of the year. Know that we are here with you. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to us. Let's continue to have open communications, open dialogue in support of our scholars and this community as a whole. And so just want to wish you all a great summer. Again, we are here. Feel free to reach out to me if you need anything. But we will catch up with you at the next PC Power Hour at the beginning of fall. Thank you, everyone.